Hello, and welcome to this episode of Swine Nutrition at Texas Tech University. Today, we'll be covering the essential feeding management techniques for hogs during the finishing stage. The finishing stage is when hogs put on the most weight and is one of the most important. Hogs in this stage will typically grow from 80 pounds to 250 pounds. When planning out a hog's nutrition for this stage in their life, it is essential to consider all of the aspects of nutrition for the hog. If a hog's nutrition is inadequate, the hog can undergo nutritional deficiency stress. If a hog undergoes long-term stress during the stage in development, it will lead to a higher pH in the meat after slaughter, resulting in dark, firm, and dry meat with high water retention. If a hog has DFD meat, it will bring a lower price per pound for that hog. Since some of these problems can arise from improper nutrition, we're now going to cover proper nutrition so as to have the highest possible average daily gain rate and the best price at slaughter. To start off with, when looking at hog nutrition, hogs need to have large feed trough with ample space for each hog to eat. If the feed trough is small, large hogs will fight off the smaller hogs to get to the feed. This will lead to large hogs getting bigger and small hogs staying small. This is bad for a hog production farm because you want hogs to have a high average daily gain in order to be as large as possible when sold. Also, you'll want to ensure that hogs have adequate access to fresh water. This is essential because if a hog's water goes stale and stagnant, it can lead to growth of moss and algae. If this happens, it can lead to possible diseases. It has been proven that fresh water leads to healthier hogs. When actually feeding hogs, an important thing to consider is the required energy intake for the hog. If a hog ingests more feed than required to build lean tissue, it will start putting on fat tissue. A high-price hog will have a large store of lean tissue without much fat tissue. With this in mind, hogs will typically have continued access to feed, and so they will need a feed that doesn't add fat tissue, but adds more lean tissue instead. That brings us to the typical average daily gain for a hog. In 2012, the average daily gain was around 1.8 for a hog. This means that for every day of feeding, the hog gained 1.8 pounds. The goal for the average daily gain is around 2 pounds per day, to cut down on the time period that you have to feed the hog before selling it for slaughter. The feed conversion for these hogs in 2012 was about 2.68. That means that for every 2.68 pounds of feed that you feed a hog, it will gain about 1 pound of lean or fat tissue. The more you can cut down on the feed conversion, the more the animal will be able to gain weight with less feed. That brings us to the actual feed for a hog. This time period for a hog represents around 60% of the total weight gain for the animal during its life. A hog's nutrient requirements are about 13% protein per pound of feed and less than 1% of lysine, vitamins, and minerals. There are about 11 vitamins and minerals that are important for hog nutrition. Feed is typically comprised of corn and soy. These are high in fiber and protein, which are both important in a hog's diet. The feed will also have those essential vitamins and minerals added to it. Now, the way that most finishing farms feed hogs is through a tubing system that funnels feed into each crate's feed trough. This gives hogs constant access to fresh feed and allows them to constantly eat and gain weight. It is important to remember that when planning a finishing system for hogs, these hogs require a very high amount of feed. If those hogs don't get the required amount of feed per day, they won't gain the optimal weight per day, and this will lead to a decreased price when sold for slaughter. I hope that this video helped if you are planning a finishing nutrition system for hogs.